You know that little voice in your head that says, I want to be rich? Almost everyone has it. But how do you actually make that happen? How do you turn that daydream into a real, solid plan? Well, it all boils down to one surprisingly simple but super powerful idea: having a concrete number. So let's really think about this. What's the real difference between someone who just wishes they had more money and someone who's actually out there building wealth? It's not just about working harder, and it's definitely not just about getting lucky. It comes down to one thing: direction. Okay, so first things first, we gotta talk about this trap that honestly almost all of us fall into at some point. It's what I call the I wanna be rich trap. It sounds like a great goal, right? But what's crazy is that very thought is often the biggest thing holding you back.
And here's why. A vague desire like that, it isn't a strategy. It's just a passive dream. Think about it. It's like saying, I want to go on a trip, but never picking a destination. You're never going to buy a plane ticket. You're never going to pack a bag because you have no idea where you're going. You're just stuck. And that's exactly what happens with our finances.
And that brings us to the core idea of this whole thing. Wealth requires direction. It requires a number. This one sentence, this is the game changer. This is the pivot point where you stop just dreaming and you actually start planning. So, what does this actually feel like in real life? Well, when you're trying to build wealth without a specific number in mind, it's kind of like you're in a little boat, adrift in the middle of the ocean. You might be paddling, you might feel busy, you might even be moving, but you're not actually getting closer to any shore because you never decided which shore you were heading for. And this is so, so important. Without that target, all your efforts, they don't have an anchor. I mean, think about it. How are you supposed to know if you're making progress? How can you possibly stay disciplined if you don't even know what the finish line looks like? You can't. And you definitely can't adjust your strategy because you have no way of knowing if you're on track or way off course. And yeah, this really breaks it down, doesn't it? On one side, you've got that vague desire. No anchor, no way to measure anything, no real discipline. It's just messy. But then you look at the other side, a concrete goal. Bam. You've got clear direction, you can measure your progress, and that leads to focused, intentional action. It's literally the difference between just drifting around and actually sailing with a purpose. All right, so this brings us to the big turning point, the solution, the one thing that just cuts through all that fog, all that what should I do feeling. And it's simple: the number. Having a number. It changes everything. Seriously, the second you pick a precise financial number, something inside you just shifts. You're forced to get clear. You snap out of that passive daydreaming mode and become an active player in your own life. And all of a sudden, you've got this new filter for every decision. Is this getting me closer to my number, or is it taking me further away? I mean, think about all the tools out there, right? Financial apps, advisors, investment platforms, there are tons of them. But they're just tools. They're like the GPS in your car. They can give you turn-by-turn directions, but they can't do a thing until you type in the destination. And that destination, that's your number. Only you can decide where you're going. So no matter what system you use, what book you read, what strategy you follow, the single most important piece of the puzzle, the one thing you have to bring to the table is your number. It's the one input the system can't just create for you. It has to come from you. So let's be super clear. What is the number? It's a specific, concrete financial target. That's it. But what it does is amazing. It takes that fuzzy intention of, I want to be rich, and gives it shape. It turns wishful thinking into a real mission. And suddenly, every dollar you save, every bit of debt you crush, it's not just a random action, it's a meaningful step in a very clear direction. Okay, that all sounds great, right? But how do you actually do this? Let's get down to brass tacks. This isn't some high-level abstract theory. It's a super simple, totally actionable process. It really just comes down to these three powerful steps. Step 1, choose your number. And I mean, get specific, not a lot of money. I'm talking $500,000 or $2 million. Pick a real number. Step 2, write it down. Seriously, don't skip this. There's something psychological that happens when you put pen to paper. It stops being just a floaty thought and becomes a real, declared intention. And then step 3, align your actions. From this point on, every financial choice you make gets measured against that number. Because at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. Direction is what creates results, period. And your number, that's what creates the direction. It's like the very first domino you have to push over to get the whole chain reaction started. And so that leaves us with just one final, very personal question. This is the question that takes everything we've talked about and makes it real for you. It's time to stop just thinking about it. So, what's your number?